Sejam bem-vindos! O IQA convida Kai Esmark, diretor da Infineon e especialista em Electrical Overstress, para bater um papo com Sérgio Quina. Seja bem-vindo e aproveite!
Hello everyone, my name is Sérgio Quina and today we have a very important subject we'd like to share with you. The VDA EOS Electrical Overstress, which is a very important technical matter related to electronic technologies embedded in automotive vehicles. We are working on publication of this technical manual and training in Portuguese version. Okay. And to talk about this subject, we brought a VDA QMC expert, Dr. Kai Esmark from the company Infineon Technologies. Hello, Kai. Welcome here. It's a very pleasure to have you with us in this chat to talk about this, let's say, new subject in Brazil. Okay.
Thank you very much for this very kind introduction. I'm really happy to share with you, let's say, the latest knowledge about electrical overstress and the activity from the VDA QMC here in Germany. Some words to me personally. As you have already introduced myself, I'm working for Infineon Technologies in Munich. I'm more or less working as a senior principal for overvoltage robust design. Infineon itself is a supplier for semiconductor devices and of course has several business lines, and one of the most important business lines is the automotive business line. And my main job, which I'm dealing now for more than 20 years, is to work on overvoltage robust designs, which means whenever we talk about our semiconductor components, there are scenarios in the field where our device might be exposed to certain electrical stress, so beyond the functional or operational regime. And we as a supplier have to ensure that until a certain limit, the overvoltage robustness of the product is given, and so the market can reliably use our devices. Personally, as I said, I'm working now for more than 20 years on this topic of EOS or EIPD. EOS stands for electrical overstress and EIPD for electrically induced physical damage. And here I'm working as an in-house consultant for field returns. So whenever we receive a device back from the field, I'm consulted in terms of supporting our quality team in order to hopefully find out what is the root cause why the device is failing. Personally, I jumped into this VDA QMC activity 3 years ago. I joined the working group of EOS at the VDA QMC Council, developed this EOS guideline, which we are talking about now the next minutes. And I have personally promoted myself as a trainer for this EOS guideline. And I'm very happy to see how this topic is now going to be spread out over the world, especially here to the region of Brazil or South America, which is really a good indication for me that this topic is having a high relevance for the semiconductor as well as for the automotive industry. And I'm really looking forward to how this standard is going to penetrate throughout the industry. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much for your brief introduction. And to start this discussion, I'd like to ask something to you. The first question is how important the quality standard of electronic components in vehicle at this time?
I think this is a very important question. So the quality of electronic components, and actually we speak here about semiconductor components like integrated circuits. I have here one integrated circuit with me. So these are the black things which you probably know from your computer, from your laptops, where these integrated circuits are used. The quality itself is of utmost importance in the automotive industry. The fact is, if a component is failing, this will always cause attention to all levels along the supply chain. So where's now the link to electrical overstress, which is the term for EOS? Without the use of semiconductor devices in the automotive industry, there are several megatrends such as safety applications, autonomous driving, or electromobility would be unimaginable. So this has led to an enormous increase of the number of semiconductor devices to be used in a single car year over year. However, and that is a very important observation, this has also led to increased risks of components to fail from damage as a result of critical electrical stress, either during the manufacturing or use of the device, which is definitely something to be corrected in case of an event or prevented to reoccur in the future. And we use the term EOS or EIPD to describe such situation. Unfortunately, and that is the pity thing, and that's the reason why we have, let's say, worked for this EOS manual, only a very small proportion of the real root cause of such damages are finally identified. And we would like to overcome these challenges from EOS or EIPD due to introducing a new problem-solving process. And this is the motivation for the EOS manual as it has been developed by the VDA QMC.
Thank you very much, Kai.
You're welcome.
I believe the VDA EOS manual was published last year in Germany, and now we are translating it into Portuguese language to have available to our local market. Yeah. And what would be an electrical overstress on a vehicle level?
In principle, there are countless events which you can think of, but let me give you two examples. So if you speak on electrical overstress on a vehicle level, you can, for example, imagine the assembly line of an OEM. So if you connect an ECU to other electrical components inside the car via the bus or the onboard supply system, this might lead to a critical electrical stress if the components which are involved during the connection which is done here are on different electrostatic potential. So high currents can be exchanged between the units. And this is of concern because these components are not designed to take so much current. Another situation is also maybe very practical or maybe well known, which is from the field level. So consider the situation: a car has been shipped to a foreign region for selling, and then you do some power charging the cars because due to the long transport, the battery has to be recharged. And due to this power charging, there can be a violation of critical voltages or critical currents. So an ECU or a semiconductor device inside could be finally damaged. So these are, I would say, prominent examples where on the vehicle level, EOS can happen. What is important to note is that these are not the only scenarios on the OEM or field level. There are other scenarios, and there are also scenarios on the semiconductor as well as the tier level, which can finally cause a physical damage as a result of electrical stress. And for a list of scenarios which we think are relevant, you can also look up the VDA EOS guideline.
Very good. And in respect of the VDA EOS manual, how can the supplier be aided with this manual, Kai?
So the main purpose the VDA EOS manual is dealing with is to provide or to describe how to deal with the processing of claims of semiconductor devices which are assembled in the automotive industry that were damaged by some sort of electrical or thermal stress. So that is the main purpose of the VDA EOS manual, to provide a process here. What it does is it defines a consistent, a two-stage and a two-level based process for EOS complaints, with a clarification of tasks and process steps for all particular parties involved along the supply chain. So that means what has to be done by the OEM, what has to be done by the tier, and what has to be done or cared by the semiconductor manufacturer. It provides to all these three partners along the supply chain checklists, questionnaires to standardize the communication and efficient processing of complaints in case of a field return. What it also does, and what is also very important, is that it introduces terms and definitions for a uniform use of language. What was very important in the beginning of setting up this working group is to find an alignment between all partners, and therefore to find a common word of definitions and terms. What it also does, it serves to spend the available resources wisely. So it helps to structure and to focus on specific activities. What it also does, finally, when you have read or worked through the manual, is it provides know-how to all tier levels and to provide lessons learned, how things can be improved in the future in order to avoid a certain situation. And what it also does, it provides possible causes of electrical overstress and some case studies, which can help to identify issues also on a certain company level alone.
It's really a very fantastic tool, yeah, I think. Okay. Well, last but not least, what part of the automotive chain is the VDA EOS manual and training applicable for? Kai?
I would say the whole guideline about EOS is dealt to work for a cooperation along the supply chain. So we think that this manual and the training you offer in your region is applicable and valuable for the semiconductor supplier, for the tier, as well as for the OEM level. What we think is, in particular, in these companies, there are, of course, groups which are definitely probably interested in this topic. So we think here of people from quality department, from development of development departments, and people who work on complaint processing. People who are involved in problem-solving processes and their managers who want to strengthen their organization with expertise on the subject of EOS are also welcome to use this manual in order to sharpen their senses and to work in something new. I mentioned especially the quality department. I think here, if the specific company is going to introduce the flow, it's definitely important to have somebody on board which is dealing with flow topics in each company. In many situations, it's the quality department. And why do I say development departments? Because as I said, when I mentioned these different examples, where does EOS come from? I have to tell you, there is such a high complexity and variety of scenarios that can lead to EOS that finally we would like to raise the awareness for a lot of people, especially to development departments, to take care about this topic during their development phase. So these are the group of people where I see definitely a beneficial use of applying the VDA EOS guideline as well as the training.
Okay, Kai. Yes, I understood it's a very complex subject, and I believe this manual could help the supplier and the OEM companies very good. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Kai. And to end this session, I'd like to say it was my pleasure to have you here and for sharing with us your experience. And see you next time. Yeah. Thank you.
See you as well. And once again, thank you very much from my side, also for this big interest in this topic. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much and stay well.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.